Hello, this is Miss Griffith, and I am going to show you how to revise or edit your writing. I am going to use the ARMS, ARMS, and COPS, COPS strategies to help me revise and edit my writing. I am going to revise and edit my simple rough draft, so this would be more appropriate for kindergarten students and possibly some first graders. And then I'm also going to work to revise and edit my more detailed rough draft, and this would be more appropriate for some first graders and certainly second graders. I am going to start with the simple rough draft. If we recall from previous videos, ARMS stands for adding details, removing extra information, moving words and sentences, and substituting boring words for interesting words. I am going to use my red pen to make corrections, just so I know any corrections that need to be made for the final draft. I'm going to first look to see if I can add any details. I was happy to play in the woods during summer at my camp. If I am thinking about details, I have the details of what I was doing. I was playing. I have the detail of where I was playing in the woods, and I have the detail of when that was taking place. That was taking place during summer. So I think that I am actually okay there. I'm going to put a check mark to let me know that I did consider adding more details to my writing. Now the next is removing extra information. Do I have any unneeded or unnecessary information in my writing? Once again, my writing is just one sentence. It's very short. I do not think that I have any extra information. Everything in this one sentence is about the same topic. So I do not think that I need to remove any information. I'm going to put a check mark to let me know, once again, that I thought about removing extra or additional information. The next is M for moving words and sentences. So I'm going to ask myself, does the sentence make sense in the order it is? I'm going to read the sentence one more time. I was happy to play in the woods during summer at my camp. I think that the sentence makes sense the way it is. I do not know if there's any words or sentences that absolutely need to be moved. So at this point in time, I am going to leave the sentence the way it is, but I'm going to put a check mark near the M, and that lets me know that I did consider or think about moving words and sentences. And now for S. Substitute boring words for interesting words. I think that happy is a word that describes how I was feeling, but I might be able to add another word that is more interesting than boring. I can add another word instead of happy. At this point in time, that word is not coming to my head. So I am going to leave that word happy there, and I'm going to put an S, or excuse me, I'm going to put a check mark near the S to let myself know that I considered it. Now that we have done arms, we have done ARMS, we are now going to look at COPs. So I'm going to ask myself, did I use capitalization or capital letters throughout my writing? Well, I do start with a capital letter, so that is perfect. And I do not have any other names or any other words in this sentence that would require capital letters. So I'm going to put a check mark near the C for capitalization, and that lets me know that we checked for capitalization in my rough draft. And now I'm going to look at the order. For the order, I am looking to see if it makes sense the way it is presented. The sentence says, I was happy to play in the woods during summer at camp. I think that makes sense, that sentence makes sense just the way it is in the order it is. I'm going to put a check mark, and now punctuation. I do have a period at the end of my sentence. I have punctuation where it's needed. And spelling. When I'm looking at the spelling, I am asking myself for words that I might not know how to spell, can I write the sounds that I hear? I think the spelling is okay in this rough draft, so I'm going to put a check mark here. Now that we have used our COPs and ARMS strategy to revise and edit the simple rough draft, we are also going to use those strategies to revise and edit the more detailed rough draft. I think that revising this rough draft is going to prove to be more beneficial, and we can make more corrections here. I'm going to read the paragraph or the collection of sentences that I came up with in a previous video. I went to camp over summer. My family and I went to a cabin in the woods. When we are at camp, we are happy, thankful, and tired. At camp, we go fishing, hunting, and ride four-wheelers. My family and I were happy to be outdoors at my camp in the summer. First, I'm going to look at the A. Can I add any details? One thing that I could add is I could add the location of the camp. So I know that it is in the woods or in the forest, but this camp was actually in a different state. This camp was in Pennsylvania. So in my writing, I can choose to add a more specific location for the camp, and that is something that I can add in a detail I can add. I'm going to put a second check mark near the A for arms. That lets me know that we did it for the simple rough draft, and we also did it for the more complex rough draft. Now for the R, I'm going to see if I have any extra information that I can remove. I think all of the information here makes sense in the order it is, so I'm not going to remove any extra information. I'm also going to look at moving words and sentences. This rough draft starts with a topic sentence. It then goes on to introduce characters and the setting. It then goes on to talk about the feelings, thoughts, and actions. And last but not least, it wraps up with a concluding statement. For this rough draft, I'm not going to move words and sentences. Now substitute boring words for interesting words. I am going to check my writing, and see if there are any words that I can change. I see one word here. So I wrote the word tired here. Instead of writing tired, I'm going to draw a line down here. I can take that word out and add the word exhausted. By substituting the word exhausted for tired, I am taking out a boring word and adding a more interesting word. Now, I'm going to move on to caps. Do I have capital letters everywhere I need a capital letter? Let's see. Right away, I notice that I don't start my sentence here with the capital letter. So I'm going to make that correction. I'm going to check the rest of my writing to see if I have capital letters. Here's another first word in a sentence that I did not use a capital letter. So I want to make sure to make that correction when I'm revising and editing. Now that I have looked at capitalization, I'm going to put a check mark. Now I'm going to look at the order. Does the order of my writing make sense? It does, so I'm going to put a check mark. Now, punctuation. Am I using punctuation appropriately? Let's see. I'm going to check if I have a period at the end of every sentence. I see here I put an exclamation point. Exclamation points are used when you're very excited. The sentence I use it on is, when we are at camp, we are happy, thankful, and tired. That sentence is not necessarily something that I'm very excited about, so I'm going to take this exclamation point and just make it a period. Here I have a question mark. You would put a question mark if you're asking a question. At camp, we go fishing, hunting, and riding four-wheelers. That is not a question. That should just be a period there. And it looks like my concluding sentence. I do not have any punctuation. I need to go back in and add a period at the end of the sentence. I'm going to put a second check mark here. And last but not least, I'm going to look at the spelling in my rough draft. I went to camp every summer. Let's see. If I want to make this word every, I need to add a Y to it. Summer, I would need to add an E because it is spelled S-U-M-M-E-R. My, although it sounds like it could be spelled M-Y, it is spelled M-Y instead of M-I. My family and I went to a cabin in the woods. Woods has two O's in it. When is spelled incorrectly. When is a sight word. So in working with sight words, you might know that it is W-H-E-N. When we are at camp, we are happy. R is another sight word, and I know that it's A-R-E. At camp, we go fishing, hunting. The ending on these two words is incorrect. If I'm adding I-N-G, I need to make sure to have the I in there. Ride. Ride would have an E on it. And happy is spelled H-A-P-P-Y. I'm now going to put a second check mark near spelling. I have used arms and cops as my two revising strategies to revise and edit my simple rough draft as well as my detailed rough draft. The next step of the writing process is to take these rough drafts and put them into a final draft.